But first, former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull renewed his criticism of AUKUS today in an address to the National Press Club in Canberra.
In recent years, our influence in the region has been diminished by the perception that we are just a rubber stamp for Washington. I've heard this directly from leaders and foreign ministers in the region. AUKUS did not help in that regard, as it was seen in the region as us running back to our former and current imperial masters.
Joining me now to discuss this and more, from the Elizabeth RSL Club in South Australia, former Prime Minister Tony Abbott. Well, Tony, in The Australian today, former ASIO spy boss, our former Defence Department chief and ambassador, of course, to the United States, Dennis Richardson, he accused Malcolm Turnbull of undermining AUKUS. Now, what's his real beef here, Tony? The fact that Malcolm didn't think of AUKUS himself?
I think that's right. He's still wedded to the French submarine deal, and the folly of the French submarine deal is that it was going to take an existing French nuclear submarine and spend 15 years redesigning it and rebuilding it in Adelaide to give us a sub less operationally capable than something that exists now. So it was never a good idea, and thank God for AUKUS, because AUKUS will give us, first of all, 3 and maybe 5 Virginia-class submarines from America, and then we'll get the successor to the British Astute class, and I think this is going to give us the strategic deterrent that we need in these very difficult times. I just wish the AUKUS subs were coming now and not in 10 years' time.
Yeah, and I wish the former Prime Minister had decided to voice his concerns earlier than leave it for the middle of the election campaign. I note that you're on the election campaign trail today. You were out with a good friend of this show, former IPA Deputy Director Dan Wild. He's a candidate in the Liberal seat of Spence. Now, Malcolm Turnbull was asked today, would he also be campaigning for the Liberal Party? He had this to say.
Are you planning on campaigning at all for the Liberal Party?
No, I think it. Look, no, I'm not. I'm not campaigning for anyone. No.
Voting Liberal though?
Secret ballot.
What about the fact, you know, he was asked there the question, well, are you going to vote for the Liberals? And he says, a secret ballot. What about the fact he won't even commit to voting for his former party? Or, sorry, his current party, he says.
Peter, no former Liberal Prime Minister should ever be bashful about who he's voting for. Simple as that.
All right, I'll leave you there to be gracious. Good on you, Tony Abbott. What about Adam Bandt, who has come out to say that Israel's to blame for the latest atrocities committed by Hamas in their crackdown on the protesters? This is obviously a brave individual in Gaza who was campaigning against Hamas, tortured and killed. It's all Israel's fault, says Adam Bandt. Now, surely this disqualifies him from leading any political party, even the Greens.
And look, what I think is most appalling is that the Labor Party is still going to give the Greens their preferences ahead of the coalition, whereas Peter Dutton, to his credit, is going to preference Labor ahead of the Greens. I mean, this sympathy for Hamas that the Greens have, and which sections of the Labor Party has, is just outrageous, as shown by the fact that Hamas have just butchered in cold blood at least 6 of the people who had the temerity to protest in favour of freedom and to stop the war.
I want to ask you about this Chinese spy ship off our coast. The Australians reported that Defence Forces passed on responsibility for monitoring it to Australian Border Force, so not our Navy, not other intelligence services, it'll be Border Force. Now, the PM, when asked about it this week, has been pretty timid in his response. He said, well, I'd prefer it wasn't there. I mean, surely we've got to have a stronger response to what's happened on our coastline over the past couple of months.
There's a couple of problems here, Peter. First, we don't have enough Navy ships. That's why the Navy's not doing this job. And second, there's got to be more of a tit-for-tat response to these acts of intimidation from Beijing. Why doesn't our Navy do live fire exercises off the coast of China? Why don't our oceanographic ships do these sorts of things in the South China Sea? A serious country does not put up with being bullied and pushed around, and unfortunately we have been bullied and pushed around by Beijing under the current government.
I just want to say tonight, there's a few despondent Liberals as the polls have been bouncing around over the last couple of days, starting this campaign. Behind in news poll, ahead in another, nil or draw in another poll, desperate as they are, Liberal supporters for a change of government. I made the point at the top of the show, when you were there first time as opposition leader in 2010, you were behind every single day that year, including the campaign, but won more seats in the race against Julia Gillard. Scott Morrison, similarly, won in 2019, being behind in the polls the whole time. If you could send a message to coalition supporters tonight and candidates, what would it be?
Well, just push on. I mean, there is a cost of living crisis in this country, and Anthony Albanese is to blame because his government has made it worse. And as far as I can work out, Peter Dutton has a very simple message. He'll get more gas into the system, he'll end the nuclear ban, he'll make it easier for first home buyers to get a deposit, he'll cut immigration hard, and here's the beauty, he's going to take $14 off the cost of a tank of petrol. Now, I've been out in Spence today. It's the most car-dependent seat in the country. 72% of the people in this seat in outer metropolitan Adelaide use their cars to go to work. 54% have 2 cars, 20% have 3 cars, 98% have internal combustion engines. These are the beneficiaries of a coalition win, and I think it's all there for the taking.
There you go. I know you love to get out on the hustings. I know you love a campaign, so I'll leave you to get back to it in South Australia. Tony Abbott, thank you.